Meghan Markle thought her future was set. A-list deals, global fame, and a multi-million-dollar brand built on one word: Duchess. But just as her new business empire began to soar, Prince William delivered a crushing blow. No warnings, no interviews. Just a silent royal order that stripped away the one thing her empire couldn't survive without. It wasn't just personal. It was surgical. And now Meghan's name, status, and power hang by a thread. Why did William do it? What's really at stake? This isn't a family feud. It's a royal takedown. And it just turned deadly serious. The royal line has been drawn. In May 2024, a silent revolution began inside the gates of Kensington Palace. Prince William, now acting not just as a royal, but as a strategist, authorized a bold shift in royal protocol. The new policy was short but sharp. Only working royals would keep their official titles, royal roles, and privileges. Non-working royals, including Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, would lose all remaining status. It was a dramatic pivot, not made on television or at a press conference, but quietly inked behind closed doors. For Prince William, this move wasn't personal. It was a professional declaration that the monarchy would no longer be a backdrop for celebrity ventures. If you didn't serve the crown, you didn't get to wear it. It wasn't about punishing family members. It was about protecting an institution that had lasted over 1,000 years. William believed that the monarchy's slow erosion came from too much tolerance for blurred lines, and he was here to redraw them. The document was finalized after months of legal consultation, involving aides and constitutional lawyers from within the UK and abroad. It clarified the difference between active royals and relatives who stepped away. The result? A new framework that defined what it meant to be royal in 2024 and beyond. There would be no more room for exploitation, confusion, or personal interpretation. Meghan and Harry's post-royal endeavors, ranging from Netflix to their Archewell Foundation, no longer had royal cover. For Meghan, the impact was immediate and personal. Her entire brand was built on the royal aura. With this new shift, that foundation was now unstable. As soon as the whispers of the policy surfaced in early June, her team went into damage control. Because, without the royal connection, the business of being Duchess Meghan would soon lose its magic. Meghan wasn't just a public figure, she was a brand. And that brand was built on one thing: her title. Without Duchess of Sussex, the image, the authority, the exclusivity, it all starts to unravel. But Meghan wasn't going down without a fight. While the palace was preparing to cut ties, her team was racing to hold on to the one word that made her powerful. And it would lead to one of the boldest business plays in modern royal history. Meghan's empire was built on one word. Meghan Markle didn't just marry into royalty, she built a global business around it. From 2018 onward, the term Duchess of Sussex wasn't just ceremonial, it was a brand anchor. Her podcast, Archetypes, her Netflix docuseries, and even her book deals all leaned heavily on her royal identity. In the world of Hollywood, prestige is currency, and nothing opens doors quite like being a duchess. Inside Hollywood boardrooms and luxury endorsement meetings, the conversation didn't start with Meghan Markle. It started with Duchess Meghan. It was the title that gave her interviews with Oprah, partnerships with Spotify, and headlines across the world. In fewer than 5 years, that title transformed her from actress to global power player. Remove the word Duchess, and the shine dims quickly. But Prince William knew all of this, and that's why her title was his first target. He wasn't just striking at a name, he was hitting the foundation of an empire. For William, this wasn't about jealousy or resentment. It was about stopping the use of royal titles as tools for personal branding, especially when the people doing it had officially stepped away from their royal duties in January 2020. The Duchess title wasn't just ceremonial, it was strategic. Meghan's team, aware of its value, trademarked products, media, and even skincare ideas around the Sussex brand. Her royal identity was tied to everything. But the moment that framework William designed took effect, every project carrying the Duchess of Sussex brand became vulnerable. Overnight, her strongest selling point was at risk of vanishing. Meghan knew she was standing on thin ice, and Prince William was about to crack it. But instead of waiting for the royal hammer to fall, her team made a last-minute play. They believed they could outmaneuver tradition with paperwork of their own. If the palace was coming for her title, she would try to own it, legally. And that led to the most unexpected twist in the entire saga. A trademark application that threatened to drag centuries of royal tradition into a courtroom. The secret royal letter that changed everything. While Meghan's legal team worked overtime to protect her brand, the real bombshell had already been signed, sealed, and nearly delivered. In late April 2024, Prince William authorized a formal letter to be drafted under the supervision of royal legal advisors. The purpose was simple: enforce the policy that non-working royals would no longer carry the HRH designation, His or Her Royal Highness. It was a quiet but lethal blow. Once the king approved and signed it, the rule would become irreversible royal law. No interview, no public statement, just a letter with the royal crest, and a decision that would echo through every tabloid and boardroom in London and Los Angeles. The letter stated clearly that as of June 1, 2024, the use of HRH by any non-working royal shall be discontinued across all official and public domains. No negotiation, no chance for rebuttal. You received the letter, and you were done. This was the royal family's traditional way of making hard decisions, through silence and signatures. The letter itself was fewer than 400 words, but its impact was enormous. Copies would be archived at Windsor, and compliance would be enforced through media corrections and protocol adjustments. It was the most direct royal strike in recent memory, and Meghan's empire was directly in its path. Even before the ink dried, whispers reached Meghan's inner circle. Legal teams, branding consultants, and PR managers began scrambling. Could they rebrand quickly? Could the title be trademarked before the palace announcement? Meghan's team had less than 4 weeks to mount a defense. But what they didn't know was that William had anticipated every move and was already one step ahead. Meghan's last card was bold, defiant, and desperate. Take ownership of her own title. She believed that if she could trademark Duchess of Sussex, the palace couldn't take it from her. But this wasn't a Netflix contract or podcast renewal. This was the British crown. And what she didn't realize was that William had seen the trademark move coming from miles away. The trap had already been set. And when Meghan stepped forward to protect her title, she walked straight into it. Meghan's desperate trademark move. By August 1st, 2024, Meghan's team had filed a formal trademark application for the phrase Duchess of Sussex across multiple jurisdictions, including the UK Intellectual Property Office and the US Patent and Trademark Office. The application covered more than 30 categories, from skincare and media to books, merchandise, and digital services. The goal was clear: protect the brand at all costs. Her legal advisors believed that if they trademarked it before the royal cutoff, Meghan could retain control, even as the palace pulled support. It was a rushed move, but not a blind one. Meghan's camp had reason to panic. Internally, they knew the HRH directive was about to explode publicly. They needed a win, a legal win, that would allow her to continue leveraging the title in Hollywood circles, speaking engagements, and product endorsements. Her entire media empire, valued at over $120 million, depended on the recognition of that royal link. The trademark play also had another purpose: leverage. If the palace wanted to avoid a high-profile legal battle, they might quietly back down. Or so Meghan's team believed. But behind palace gates, Prince William was not bluffing. In fact, he had already blocked this exact scenario months before. By March 2024, Kensington Palace's legal team had updated internal policy to restrict private commercialization of royal designations, especially those granted by the Crown. The trademark filing was submitted, but the response came fast. Within 72 hours, the UK office flagged the application for review. And in the United States, Meghan's lawyers were quietly informed that any royal-derived branding would face institutional resistance. Meghan had thrown a last-minute punch, but the Crown had already braced for impact. Meghan thought she was playing chess, but William had already finished the game before she made her move. The trademark filing became a trap, not a loophole, because just days after the application was filed, the palace executed its next move. A blow so direct, so final, that it sent a ripple across every royal watcher's timeline. The Queen of Branding had walked into a legal buzzsaw, and the Crown hadn't even flinched. The palace saw it coming. In early August 2024, Meghan's trademark request was denied, swiftly and without compromise. The decision was grounded in historical policy, dating back to the Royal Names Act of 1934, and reinforced under Queen Elizabeth II's modernization reforms in the 1990s. Royal titles were never personal property. They belonged to the Crown, and attempts to trademark them without express permission violated sovereign tradition. Meghan's legal play had failed before it even started. But this wasn't just a legal defeat. It was a narrative collapse. The moment the denial hit public databases, media outlets began dissecting the fallout. Headlines like "Meghan's title bid blocked by palace" and "Duchess trademark hits royal wall" dominated social feeds by August 6th. Even neutral outlets began asking the hard question: without royal ties, what exactly was Meghan's brand now? Behind palace walls, William remained silent. He didn't need to say anything. The legal framework had spoken for him. His team had closed every back door, every soft edge that once allowed royals to step away from duty while holding on to the perks. In the words of one insider, this wasn't an attack. It was a cleanup. William had drawn the line, and now it was being enforced, point by point. For Meghan, the consequences were immediate. Speaking engagements were pulled. Brand deals paused. Internally, her team began pivoting from royal prestige to personal identity branding. But it wasn't sticking. The magic of the title had always been the hook. And now that magic was fading, with royal authority backing the fade. The palace hadn't just stripped titles, it had exposed the fragility of Meghan's empire. But William wasn't done yet. The royal letter, the trademark shutdown, those were just the opening moves. Next came a sweeping reform that would shake not only Meghan and Harry, but every extended member of the royal family. Because now, even blood wasn't enough to keep your place at the royal table. Meghan isn't the only target. By September 2024, the full scope of William's new royal framework became clear. This wasn't just about Meghan and Harry, it was about every royal living off the name without putting in the work. The new policy, officially called the Royal Status Clarification Directive, laid out specific criteria. To retain active royal status, family members needed to log a minimum of 200 public duty hours per year, maintain proximity to the crown, and receive sovereign approval every 5 years. For Prince Harry, this meant one thing. He too was no longer His Royal Highness in any official form. The document referred to him simply as the Duke of Sussex, a respected figure, yes, but no longer a working royal. The fallout hit hard. Media outlets began updating his title. TV introductions changed. Biographies and book blurbs were revised. Slowly, the titles were being peeled away. But it didn't stop with the Sussexes. Distant cousins, semi-retired royals, and lesser-known family members found themselves suddenly outside the circle. No more invitations to major state events, no more allowances, no more private use of royal status. The directive had redrawn the map of the monarchy, and only the truly active were allowed inside. William's message was clear. Being royal is not a vibe. It's a job, one that requires duty, service, and accountability. The days of ambiguous entitlement were over, and anyone standing on the sidelines, they were quietly shown the door. William versus Charles. Behind the formality of the royal facade, August 2024 saw one of the most quietly tense meetings in recent royal memory. It was between King Charles III and his heir, Prince William. The topic? The new framework William had pushed forward without much resistance, until now. Charles, ever the reconciler, had grown uneasy with the sudden strictness. He wanted a family, not a fortress. William, however, believed the family had already become a liability. Charles believed in unity. His approach had always been private reconciliation, not public discipline. He had tried for 4 years to heal the rift with Harry. He believed time and love could fix most royal wounds. William disagreed. He believed time had only deepened the damage and allowed those outside the system, like Meghan, to gain too much power. For him, mercy had turned into monarchy decay. The tension between them boiled quietly. William reminded his father of Queen Elizabeth II's subtle strength. She had managed the monarchy through crises, but never allowed it to be reshaped by outsiders. Charles argued that times had changed. William answered with a chilling line, "Exactly, and that's why we can't lead it the old way anymore." The room went silent. In the end, the king didn't block the policy. He signed the documents. But insiders say he did so with hesitation. The torch hadn't passed yet, but it was flickering. And now, for the first time, father and son were walking two very different paths to protect the same crown. With his father reluctantly on board, William no longer needed to hold back. What started as a letter was now becoming a legacy. But behind his bold vision was a quiet network, one that had been working for months to help him reshape the monarchy from the inside. Not British advisors, not family members, but international experts. Because William's plan wasn't just about reacting to chaos, it was about building a royal model for the next century. Behind the curtain. In early 2024, long before the public ever saw the new policies, Prince William had already begun assembling a secret task force. It included legal historians from Denmark, protocol advisors from Sweden, and even constitutional consultants from Germany. Their mission? Study the most successful modern monarchies in Europe and use their strategy to rewire the British royal system. The model that most inspired William? Queen Margrethe, II of Denmark, who had stripped her own grandchildren of royal titles in 2022. Her reasoning was clear. Too many royals led to too much confusion. The move had sparked backlash, but in time, strengthened the Danish crown. William took notes. In fact, he directly requested transcripts of her speeches and internal legal memos from that time. This secret team met monthly in undisclosed locations, sometimes virtually, sometimes in person at private royal estates. Over 9 months, they produced a comprehensive royal reform document outlining everything from title restrictions to budget accountability. By the time the first HRH letters went out in July 2024, every possible consequence had already been planned for. This wasn't about Harry and Meghan anymore. It was about the monarchy itself. William believed if they didn't modernize now, they'd collapse later. The team's report was simple. The monarchy must be exclusive, clear, and functional. Royalty is not a status symbol. It is a role. That statement became the guiding mantra of William's entire operation. And as William's blueprint started taking effect, the cracks began to show. Not in the palace, but across the Atlantic. In Montecito, Meghan's once booming empire started feeling the tremors of fading royalty. With her HRH stripped and her trademark blocked, her name was still known, but no longer protected. The spotlight was still there, but the throne behind it had vanished. Meghan's media empire starts to crack. By October 2024, the ripple effects of William's policy began showing up in cold corporate numbers. A top streaming executive in Los Angeles confirmed Meghan's Netflix deal, originally estimated at $100 million, was being reviewed for long-term value. Public speaking agencies quietly began removing HRH Duchess of Sussex from promotional materials. Invitations to elite events slowed, and Meghan's relevance in political and luxury circles dipped significantly. Her podcast, once the #1 on Spotify, saw a sharp decline in listenership after the HRH status was removed. Viewers loved the royal tone, the behind-the-palace door appeal. Without that, the show was just another celebrity voice in a crowded field. By November, Meghan's team had already revised branding strategies 3 times, each less effective than the last. Even her philanthropic initiatives were affected. Donors and collaborators who once signed on to work with royalty now faced tough PR questions. Were they supporting an ex-royal or a rebranded influencer? The lines were blurry, and in business, blurry equals risk. Multiple brand partners pulled back from renewals in the final quarter of 2024. Internally, Meghan's staff saw it coming. Her communications team warned about relying too heavily on the title. But by the time it was gone, the brand was already built. And without the crown, the castle was crumbling. But William never celebrated. This wasn't about humiliation, it was about survival. Meghan's brand was suffering, but the monarchy? It was regaining form. Titles had meaning again, roles had structure. And for the first time in years, the royal family had boundaries the public could respect. But this wasn't just the end of a chapter. It was the beginning of William's reign in spirit, even before he wore the crown. William's bombshell has one purpose. To many, Prince William's crackdown looked harsh, ruthless even. But behind every letter, every denied trademark, and every stripped title was a singular goal: protect the crown. William wasn't trying to destroy his brother's future. He was trying to save his own, along with 900 years of royal legacy. He knew the monarchy could no longer survive on symbolism. It needed structure. So he built one. A modern monarchy where duty outranked drama and where titles weren't family gifts, but earned roles. His message: royalty is not a souvenir. You wear it only if you work for it. This was never about punishing Meghan or Harry. It was about ensuring that future royals, like Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, would inherit something worthy. Not a broken institution, not a tabloid circus, but a respected system with power, purpose, and clear lines. And now, as William prepares to one day take the throne, one truth is clear. The bombshell he dropped wasn't about dividing the family. It was about uniting the monarchy. And in doing so, he may have finally done what no royal had done in decades: restored the power of the crown by knowing when to say no. So now, the dust has settled, and Meghan's empire stands shaken. Her legal teams tried to trademark the very name that made her famous. Her advisors scrambled to protect what remained. But in the end, nothing could stop the one force she underestimated: the crown. Prince William didn't speak to the cameras. He didn't argue on Twitter. He made one decision, signed one paper, and flipped the entire game. Her royal status revoked. Her HRH gone. And without the backing of the monarchy, Meghan's global brand lost its core identity. It's not just about a title. It's about power, legacy, and control. For Meghan, this is more than a legal loss. It's a reputational blow. Brands are pulling back. Headlines are changing. The world that once greeted her as Duchess Meghan is starting to treat her like every other celebrity. And in that transition, the value of her empire is quietly dropping. But for Prince William, this is only the beginning. What started as a private policy shift is now becoming a royal doctrine, one that separates blood from duty, one that draws a line between fame and service. He's not just protecting the monarchy, he's reshaping it. So the question now is, where does Meghan go from here? Can she rebuild without the royal shine? Or is this the beginning of the end for her empire?
Let us know your thoughts below. Was William right to act now? Should Meghan fight back?
Subscribe for more explosive updates from behind palace walls. Because if this bombshell is any sign of what's to come, the royal war has only just begun.